Great. Well, welcome everybody. Happy Groundhog's Day. Did the groundhog see a shadow in Texas? Or
Oh, yeah.
Apparently not.
No, no, we didn't.
okay.
Not yet. Not here.
Okay. Well, I guess do you go by what Puxatawny Phil sees, or how do you do it there?
Ooh, where?
I don't know.
Nothing to do.
Good question.
Well, we've got 6 more weeks of winter. That's all I know. But here
I
in
grew up in
Virginia.
Illinois, so I use Illinois and Texas. It's all the same. Use
Okay.
the same
Yeah.
groundhog.
Yeah, it's about, yeah.
It is 6 weeks until spring, no matter what time, who
That's
sees the
right.
shadow.
That's exactly right. I think
Sue,
you're right.
where are you from? Where are you from, Sue?
I'm in Virginia.
Okay.
I'm in
Oh,
northern
I'm in
Virginia.
Texas.
Okay. We're at the foot of the Blue Ridge out here. So
Oh, it's so beautiful there.
thank you. Yeah, we love it.
Susan, a quick comment, if I can,
Yeah.
on Roots Magic that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
I downloaded it and then I actually bought it. And I downloaded at least on my father's line. But one disappointment in downloading that, it does not download the memories or the documents that you have attached in Family Search.
Okay.
That was a huge disappointment to me.
Yeah. Huh. Now, can you get it one by one to go into your?
Yeah, but I don't want to go through all that work.
Yeah, sure. I wonder if, I mean, you just keep it on Family Search and you know that will
Yeah.
be kept there and that nobody's going to mess with that. The main thing is to have a record that nobody's going to mess with.
Right.
Right. And so that's what you've got the Roots Magic for. I'm going to turn the time over now to Chris to show us, it's a little follow-up from last week. So I'm going to invite him to share his screen and show us what he's found about how to sync Roots Magic with Family Search, just to show you how that works.
Hey, now get your notepads out, several pages. This is going to be extremely complicated. And notice the big smile on my face. This is so simple. No, you don't need any notes.
Right.
All right. Bob, I appreciate the heads up. I'm just starting out with Roots Magic myself, and I did not realize that the memories didn't come over. However, it does a wonderful job of downloading from either Ancestry or Family Search. Here's my tree. Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay. That gets the tree. You just go one icon higher, File, and you'll see my wife's screen isn't on, so I'm hoping you all see that. You all see the import data?
Yes.
Okay, click import data. You can either import from a previous Roots Magic program or various lists, or download from an online tree. And you get a choice of Family Search. Well, I don't know why Ancestry suddenly grayed out. Maybe it won't let you do both because I've already done Family Search. Just click that. What was that? Oh, somebody said something.
I wonder if we could have everybody mute their mics except for Chris. I think we're getting some feedback there.
Okay. Literally, I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. I just downloaded the latest version. It seems much more stable. I had some problems with version 8 in a previous version a few weeks ago, but they said they fixed that. That's all there is to it. Now, you'll notice down here, this is telling me I got Family Search. Down in this lower left corner on version 7, you've got both an Ancestry icon and a Family Search icon. That was where I downloaded from Family Search previously in version 7. But with the new version 8, it's up here in the file. Click import and download from an online tree. And this was not grayed out last night when I re-downloaded Family Search in the new version. So I'm assuming that it's grayed out now because it already knows I've got Family Search in there and it's not going to put one over on top of the other. I'm not certain of that. Any
Okay.
questions?
I'm pretty sure you can have more than one tree in Roots Magic. Is that correct?
Yes, you can.
Yes, my understanding is that's correct. Yes, in fact, I know that's true because you can choose which one when you open it up.
Yeah, you can have different files with different trees.
But that's literally all there is. And they are having a slight memory problem with some of the downloads on larger trees. I ran into that apparently because of one line. They told me yesterday in an online chat, and they only have online chat, but the chat was some of the best online chat I've ever dealt with on any website. They
Oh,
told
that's
me
good
that
to
they're
know.
expecting an update, literally, he said, quote, within days, unquote, and that should resolve the memory error if you've got a very large tree that you're importing.
Very good.
Bob looks like he's got a comment.
Yeah, I downloaded, when I downloaded a lot. I don't go back as far as you do, but my father's line downloaded, but my wife's line did not download. Now, I don't know why, there's nothing from that side at all. It's my second wife, and of course she's alive, but her mother and father and all that did not download along with on my side. I was just didn't know why that happened.
I just really, as I said, I'm brand new, almost brand new to Roots Magic. We actually got it over a year ago, but they said version 8 was imminent over a year ago and sent me a link for it or an ID for it. I did not realize it doesn't appear. Nope, I don't have my wife's line either.
Huh.
Yeah, I think you can only download the one from the one person's tree, one at a time.
So then it would be a second download or a second tree,
Correct.
is what you're saying. Is that right?
Correct.
Apparently a
I'm
second
sure that's
tree.
correct.
Whether they can be integrated, I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hadn't even noticed that. I was just noticing that I had my tree and didn't really look that closely.
Mhm.
If you get an error message in the next few days with it, they tell me that that's more than at the end of a download. That's apparently this memory error that they are in the process of getting fixed. Any other questions, comments? That's what you're looking for, I hope, Sue?
That's perfect. Yeah. Now, just to reiterate, from there, everybody should be able to, as you work on your Roots Magic line, you can, with one click, send that to Family Search. And if you see something else in Family Search after you've already downloaded it to your tree, but oh, they've found more, you can also take that from Family Search and put it into your tree one by one without, the thing that you're avoiding is manually entering in names, dates, places, all that data. So that's terrific.
Chris,
Okay.
there's one question that came up in the chat. Could you have the initial person on your tree be one of your children so that it would then bring in both lines?
I remember specifically it asked me who I wanted to be the starting person. I selected me, but I was given a choice. I would have, well, I don't know that for sure with that being a living person. I didn't try it.
Cool. It's an interesting thought. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Chris. That was really, really helpful. I
Glad
hope
to do it.
everybody can see how beneficial it can be to have genealogy software.
Oh,
Okay, I'm going to share my
would-
screen now.
Would you like me to just real quick show a screenshot of the research log, just so people can see what's there?
Not today.
Okay, all right.
I think we'll move on. Thank you. Okay. Welcome to Beyond the Basics class number 2. And today we're going to be doing some fun stuff. Thanks for that recap, Chris, from last week. And hopefully you have had time or will have time soon to look into those different genealogy software options and see where you'd like to keep your organization. So for today, I promised, or I told you that we would be doing research, and before we launch into real research, I mean, new groundbreaking research, you know, we can't really go there yet because you've got to check your existing tree. For what I can tell, a lot of you have put your data into Family Search and it hooked up to a tree that eventually that was already there. And maybe you go back to the 1600s. But that tree, you know, that's great and that's exciting. The bad news that every single connection on that tree needs to be corroborated by you. So before doing research to extend your tree, you need to make sure you're climbing the right tree, so that you're not doing research on the wrong line. Now, and the problem that we have is that this class is meant to give you the analytical tools that will allow you to check your tree and do all that analysis, but that'll be by the end of the class. So right now, some of you may be equipped already, but you're probably not completely equipped with how to check your tree. But we can start research today, research that corroborates your tree, and that is using census records to corroborate the part of your tree that's in the US during census time, which is from 1850 to 1940. Your goal is to start with, and this is a really good way to check your tree, and it may be a very small part of your tree, it may be a very large task that I'm giving you, but is to find each ancestor that's already in your tree in every available census. What that gives us is you get a snapshot of that family every 10 years. And you can look at the children and you can look at where they are and you can compare that with what's in Family Search and see, is this tree correct? Back to, you know, hopefully 1850 if your family was in the United States back to 1850. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I like to use Ancestry for my census searches. I believe, in my opinion, Ancestry has a superior search function than Family Search does. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. And no, you don't have to, I'm not advocating a subscription to Ancestry. I'm not getting paid by them for this presentation. So, but you need to know that your local family history centers, you can go there and you can get Ancestry for free if they're open. I'm not sure. Ours out here in Virginia are not open because of COVID. But what is open now is there are some affiliate libraries, libraries that are affiliated with the family history centers that can do the same thing, give you free access to Ancestry and to other paid websites. And it's wonderful. And so you can go to these affiliate libraries now and, you're going to prepare for that trip. I know it's better to have your pajamas on at home doing this, but this will be an outing. This will be a trip. where you can spend a morning or spend an afternoon or spend all day, like I used to in the Family History Library, and be prepared, know what you're going to be looking for, so you're not wasting your time while you're there, but use that for free. And that's what I think the best way for you to do this will be. You can compare, you're already familiar with the search features in Family Search, and maybe you're happy with that. And if that works for you, then stay home and use Family Search. I find Ancestry worth the wait, worth the trip to the library. So we're going to go off to Ancestry right now, and I'm going to show you how to do searches on Ancestry. So let me show you. Okay, now I can see. Okay, we're going to start with, I asked the class to give me some information on their trees. We're going to start off with Rodolphe Perrotet. I hope, George, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Rodolphe, let me put this back up here. So here's his Family Search page. You can
So
see
hang
that-
on, you're still on, what I see is off to ancestry.com. It's on your PowerPoint.
Okay, let me see. How do I do that? Okay, I see that it's off. Okay. Maybe I need to get out of my PowerPoint.
You should be able to share your screen, which would allow you to change what is shown on the screen and not just the PowerPoint.
Gotcha. I got it.
Cool.
Okay. I can't do that now. Hold on. Okay, I'm sharing my desktop. Can you see my desktop now?
If you click,
Yes.
Sue, if you click on this, if you unshare and then reshare again and click on that, on the one icon that says screen, that'll allow you to share whatever.
Okay, what are you seeing now?
Join
We-
live demo.
Yeah, we're seeing your browser and has Zoom right there.
Great. Okay. Let me. Okay,
There it goes.
there we go now. Okay, can you see Rodolphe now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're going to look at Rodolphe. You can see here that Rodolphe was born 1798 in Switzerland, and he died 1882 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. At this point, we don't know whether he's going to be in the 1850 census or not. We don't know when he came, when he immigrated from Switzerland. So going down here, there's no marriage event, so we don't know if he married Mary and Caroline, you know, when that occurred. If we knew where that was, that would help. Let's look at the birth of James. And James was born in New Jersey in 1830. So evidently the family immigrated in time for the 1850 census. So we are going to go to Ancestry now. And it's just ancestry.com. And here's the screen that you will see. And there are a lot of different ways to get to census records. This is what I do. I go up to search, And I'm not real sure how what your computer screen will look like at the library, but I like to search the card catalog. So and we'll show you how. We'll do that several times so that you'll see that. And in the census, I'm going to put in 1850 federal census. And I like to do 1850, 1860, doing federal census. If you just put in census, you can get a lot of censuses. This is without typing out United States federal census every time. It's a pretty quick way to get a short list where you can choose the 1850 United States federal census. So that's what I've done. Okay, here is the search screen for the 1850 United States federal census. First name. You've got to match all terms exactly, which you've got on Family Search. Okay, I'm going to put in Rodolph. And you can see that there are several options here. I can put down nothing. So it's not an exact match. It's just if there's somebody named Rodolph, it'll come in first, but it'll show you, James and all sorts of different names. It's not going to exactly search for Rodolph. You can also check exact, meaning you'll only find an entry if that's the exact spelling of Rodolph. You can do a sounds like, so you might get Rodolph with an E on the end. You might get Rudolph, which is the form that we're used to seeing more. Similar, sounds like it's similar. And this is a really nice feature. If, for instance, the enumerator, and I hate him if he did this, but if the enumerator only put in initials, R, Parate, then it would show it. And if you don't do this and they're just initials, it won't, chances are it won't show it. Okay, and I'm going to put in the exact spelling of what we've got in this Family Search database. I'll put in 17. Oh, let me go back to the last name. The last name options have similar, it doesn't have the initials, but sounds like similar in Soundex. I've checked all of those to give us the widest range of different variations of this last name. Birth 1798. Now you're choosing a census, and so you're using a census database. The birth will be reflected by what the person, in 1850, the age of the person, because they didn't have birth years in there. So if the census, if the enumerator came to your house in August and you were born in January, it would be the right year. But if you hadn't had your birthday yet, if your birthday was in October and they came in June, then you're not going to be, as old as you're going to be. So I at least like to put plus or minus in there. Does that make sense to everybody? For this, I would do for a name like Rudolph Parate, I would put in plus or minus 5. And why do I say for a name like that? This is not Mary Smith, right? This is a fairly unique name. We'll find out how unique it is. And I'm going to put in Switzerland. And I'm going to say exact to that country, okay? Now, a word about the location. If he was in Pennsylvania, and in fact, if I knew, let's say I knew he was in Philadelphia, and if I put in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and notice how a list generates, and you can just click on that without writing everything in. If I put in Philadelphia, it wouldn't find anything. You would say, well, let me show you. No answers, okay. Why is that? Well, the census itself is not going to say he's born in Philadelphia. Some of the enumerators actually put counties in. I love them when they do that. But for most censuses from 1850 to 1940, they're just going to have the state in there. And so if you identify the birth as being anywhere else, it's going to say, nope, can't do it. So just be aware that don't put in the real birthplace if you know all the information. Just put in the state. For Rodolph, we're going to put in Switzerland. Okay. And I'm not sure where he lived. I'm not going to put New Jersey in because James was born in 1830 and they may not be there in 1850. Let's just see what we get here. And we get nothing. Okay, so the search did not recognize this at all. Okay, so we go to this little pencil because we're going to edit. We're going to try again. So you might be thinking in your mind, okay, what can I do? Let's do just a last name search. Doesn't like that either. And that's with all of the, I'm not checking just exact. It's not finding anything with parité. So let's put Rodolph back in. and look at what we should try to do. Okay, let's, just for fun, let's do, I'm going to do an asterisk. Now, an asterisk in Ancestry means one or more letters is missing. And let's put the T at the end and see what we get. Okay, nothing. Okay, now let's try it again without the T. And the point of trying it with the T first is we don't want this onslaught. I don't know how many names start with PER. So we have narrowed it down to 1798 Switzerland. So let's see what we get now. Okay, still nothing. Maybe it's not liking this first name. So we try Rudolph. Maybe he's become Americanized by now. Now the similar should have brought that in. So the similar function, so that doesn't work. So I'm going to remove everything but the PER and the asterisk. Okay. We've got these answers, and I'm kind of surprised it's just these four. Olivia, hooray, she was born in Switzerland. And anyway, none of these are Rudolph, we can see. So we're going to have to be creative here. And this is the point of showing this, is that we need to play with all of the different options so that we can tell. Okay. Maybe it doesn't like Switzerland. So let's remove that. Now I'm putting an RUD with an asterisk. When you do that, it actually goes to exact, I believe. So let's see what we got. Still nothing, okay. Let's remove the 1798. Let's put in Rudolph and see what we get. Okay, anything look familiar here? I think we found him finally with all those searches. Here we go. This looks right. Now notice the spelling of the name, why PER worked. Notice why it didn't like 1798 plus or minus 5, because that only went to 1803. I could have expanded, one of the options that would have gotten him is to expand that to plus or minus 10, which would have been a good strategy. Okay, so Rudolph is in Philly right now. And we're going to look at that census record. Okay, and here he is. We've got Rudolph, P-E-R-O-T-T, born in Switzerland. In the 1850 census, they often rounded to the nearest 5, and that's why he's 45 here, and his wife is also. So that's another reason to give a little more latitude than normal with the ages. We've got Caroline, we've got James, we've got a daughter, Caroline, and we've got a son, John. We have found Rudolph in the 1850 census. And this is a really good way to check. Have I got these children in my tree? The wife is Caroline, that good. Does it look good? All the children are born in New Jersey, but they're born in Philly now. And you get out your map and you realize that New Jersey is just across the river from Philly. So, they probably didn't move very far from where the children were born, but they're now in Philly. Okay, let's try. We'll go back. And we're going to go to try to find him. Now he died, I can't remember, but in the late 1880s. So we're going to find him in the 1860, we found him in the 1850. We're going to find him in the 1860, 1870, and 1880. So we're going to X out of that. We're going to go back to search. And we're going to go to the card catalog. And this time we'll put in 1860 federal census. There. And there it is. So we'll click on that. Okay. Since he went by Rudolph, I'm going to put RUD on this one. And notice how it automatically has the same settings that I used last time. So you don't have to repopulate that every time. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before, PER. I'm going to put 1798 plus or minus 10 this time. And I'll put in Switzerland because that's what you told the enumerator in 1850. So we can use, we could and should use the information from other censuses to see. Okay, it doesn't like that this time. So we've got to change our search here. Let's remove Switzerland. And we'll search again. Still doesn't like that. Okay. Let's try ROD maybe. Since he was Rodolph at first. Okay, here's some answers, but this doesn't look familiar, does it? Roderick Purcell, Rhoda Purvin, Roderick Percy. That doesn't look right. So let's remove the first name. And shall we see if he's still in Pennsylvania? Okay, now we get 286 possibilities, and we don't want that. And that's not exactly what we have in mind. So we need to narrow it down a little bit. Let's try Switzerland again. Okay, and there's only one, and Louise is not the name we're going for. So I'm showing you this. I really do know how to find this. I'm showing you this because this is what you're going to be running into. You need to be creative with this. Okay, let's take out Pennsylvania. Maybe he's moved 1850 to 1860. And let's think about, I'm going to put in the first name again. I'm going to take off exact. Okay, now what that does is that if the answers are, if I get 500 answers, the ones with Rudolph will be first. So I'm okay with that. Now, rather than PER didn't work. Let's think of pair. I'm assuming that Perrotet is from the French version of Switzerland. So it would be a sound, so pair. So let's do PAR. Let's see what happens. Okay, Rudolph Perrotet in Philly, like he was last time in the 1850. Birth year 1799 about. That's pretty close. So I think we've got the right person. But do you see how you need to be really, really creative with how they might have spelled names? For the most part, the enumerators didn't ask people to spell out their names. So you're going to get how it sounded a lot of times. So search this phonetically, right? Search how it sounds. Here we go, Rudolph. Now, if I look at that really closely, I actually think this is not P-A-R-O-T-E-Y. I'm seeing two T's with just the one T cross. I would transcribe this P-A-R-E-T-T-Y. So the P-A-R I would still have to do. But anyway, that's just my opinion, my humble opinion. Okay, so let's look at this and see where we are. We've got the same children, James, Caroline, and John, and the same wife, Caroline, Switzerland, Switzerland. This time it says these children are born in Pennsylvania. We don't think that's true, but because that's a contradiction from last time, but that's bears watching as we go through this. We've now found him in the 1860 census. A word about surnames, a word about spelling, actually. So there was no correct way to spell things really until around the time of the Civil War. That was the time when the first widely disseminated dictionary was published. So before then, people spelled things how it sounded. I've seen in the original writings of George Washington that he spelled table T-A-B-E-L. And you see that and you go, oh, was he not educated? No, he was. But people could spell anything the way they wanted to, even tables. And so names, there was certainly no correct way to spell a name. I have seen a will written by the person who wrote their own will, and they spelled their last name 3 different ways within that one document. So we need to, give up our hold on, now this is the right way to spell things. And no, it's not. It wasn't back then. So keep that in mind as you're doing your searches. That can really lead you astray if you've got that presupposition. Okay, let's go to, I need to move my screen here. Let's go back. And we're going to look in the 1870 census. So we're going to go to search, card catalog. 1870 federal census. Okay. Another year, another census. Okay. So let's look at this. And let's try the Rudolph PER, born 1798. Let's run as 10 in Switzerland. I don't know how many of you play the game Wordle, the very popular game Wordle. I love it. You have to start with a word and you have no clues. So at least we have a clue of where to start here, but it's a little bit like Wordle. We're finding out, okay, let's see if this guess is right. No, it's not. Okay, we'll try again. And since it didn't get anybody, let's remove that first name. Try again. We get 13 possibilities. Again, we're looking for a first name of something to do with Rudolph. Look at, see how it's given me an option for the initials for the first name. That's really cool. But I don't see Rudolph. This looks a lot like the last one, doesn't it? But there's no Mary in their family born 1803. So that's probably not related to us. Okay. And the John Parity is the same thing, but that must be Mary's husband. Okay, we'll try again. We can try, let's see here. Let's try PAR again, rather than PER. No, not there. Okay, let's put in I'll try PIR. Nope. Okay. Let's get rid of Switzerland. Actually, let's get rid of the year first. Okay. The word bulldog comes to mind. You have to be relentless. Okay, now I'm going to search for anybody born in Switzerland with the last name PER. And we'll see how many we get. We get 125. That might be worth it. Let's put in the father was born in Switzerland, but let's see if any of the children are still living at home. And let's see if they were born in New Jersey. And now we get 2000. Okay, forget that. We'll go back to Switzerland. Okay, he was in Pennsylvania last time. Let's check that out. I'm not going to say exact. Under 25. Let's put in Rudolph. So if anybody has that name, and I'm going to not make it exact either. So that means that it'll show me all those other names, but if there's somebody Rudolph, it'll come to the front. And there's nobody with Rudolph. So now we might want to try Caroline. She was born in Switzerland too. We're hoping she's still alive. Nope. Let's try PAR with her. Caroline Paris. That's not right, 1834. Okay. Let's keep on going here. What would be your search strategies? What would you do now at this point? You got to keep, I think the assumption that you need to start with is that they're there somewhere and you just need to find them. Let's go back.
Take off Pennsylvania.
Okay. Try that. Same thing. Let's try it with PER without Pennsylvania. And nothing. Okay. At this point, I would go back to family search and see, okay, what can we do next? We've got had trouble finding the parents. We've got, and let's go to James and see if we can tell anything from his life where he might be. Oh, he got married in 1875 in Philly to Sally. So in 1870, he's not married yet. So is he living at home? He was born 1831, according to this, in New Jersey. We saw in the other census, Pennsylvania, but let's try to find him. If you're having trouble finding one, find somebody else in the family. They may be next door. We're going to go to James. We'll stick with PER. And he was born 1831. Let's go plus or minus 5. And let's say New Jersey. Exactly. Okay, see what we come up with. Can we find James? Okay. James Percy, Perigo, Perry. Not seeing anything. Let's try. Maybe he was born in Pennsylvania. Let's try that. One of 21. So let's look through these. Perkins, Perry, Perry. There's a Perro or Perrot, but it's not William. These are the parents, and his parents weren't William S. and Mary W. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one. Purvis, Perry, Perry, Pershing, Perkins, Purcell, Burley, Perrine, Perry. One more over here. Next page. Nope. Not finding him. Let's change to PAR. There are 85 responses to this. Why? Because of Parks and Parker, right? Parsons. Okay. So we won't take the time to look there. Let's say that this isn't exact. Let's just say that's the suggestion I want to look at first. Okay, notice that it does populate the people born in Pennsylvania first. You see that? Now I have 1,000 answers. I might just look and see if he is one of the first ones. We can do this. We can put a T at the end to narrow it down. See if there's anybody with the name that starts with PAR that starts with T. And that reduces it to 50. We're not going to take the time to go through that today. So we'll go to, let's try. The last census, it's ended with a Y. So let's try that. It's only 33. If we see anything here, not on the first page. Let's go to New Jersey because that's really where Family Search said he was born. Oops. But we won't put exact. $33 again. And notice none of them are in New Jersey. So we're going to change that to PER. These are the only ones born in New Jersey, and none of them are right. Let's go to the daughter Caroline. We'll do PER. And let's see, when was she born? We'll go back to Family Search, and she was born 1835 in New Jersey. So let's try that. Notice nobody's born in New Jersey here. That means, and I'll show you if we did exact, we wouldn't get anything. So now you can see how it's kind of helpful to not say exact. So we're going to take that away. Come on. And let's see, what else can we do? Let's go change this to PAR. These 4 are born in New Jersey. And I'm not seeing anything that looks right. Okay. Let's try. Nope. Okay, now here's another search you can do. And because we're more sure of the first part of the name. This
Sue,
one. Yeah,
I found him.
good. Okay. Well, I know where he is.
Okay,
Show it. What was your search?
I did RUD asterisk.
Okay.
The last name I did P asterisk R asterisk T. And
Very
I just
clever.
and I just put location Switzerland.
Okay, so no birth date.
No,
Okay, good job. And did you make that exact?
no.
Okay. Okay. Look at that. There's the first one. Excellent. Okay. So they're still in Philly. Let's take a look at it. Okay. Now notice there's absolutely no birthplaces on here, are there? This is kind of odd. So here's a census where nothing is filled out but the name. And maybe that's why it didn't like what we were putting in. If you put in Switzerland exact, this wouldn't have come up. So it's good that you didn't check that. Notice the spelling is back to the original search that we did, P-E-R-O-O-T-T-E-T, Rudolph. 72, that means he was born in 1798, but we don't know Switzerland. Okay, now we've got James, the son. We've got a person named Henry, who's 14, that we're not sure who that is, Henry Perrotet. And then the wife is there, Caroline. So this is the correct family. They're in Philly. Rudolph is getting old. So good job. That one was harder to find, probably because these pages, this form wasn't completely filled out. And so you don't get the normal information that you get. Okay, one more. We're going to go to 1880. I'm going to go back to the card catalog. I'm going to go. No, you didn't want to do that. Okay, card catalog. Okay, let me go to 1880 federal census. And let's put in the full name now. Since the last one was this way, maybe they've codified the way that they spell their name. We'll find out. And there he is. Okay, does this look like the right person? Yeah, you'd have to say yes. Again, the spelling is the exact same way. And about 1800, that's close enough, in Switzerland. Notice that he's in 1880, it gives you relationships. It's the first census where there are relationships. So he's the father. So he's living with a child, a grown child by this point, right? Okay. We've got him with son James. Remember, James got married in 1875, so this is his wife. And they've got a couple of children. The cursed initials, MC. What do you want to bet her first name is Mary? Could be Margaret, could be whatever. And then another daughter, AC. Maybe Caroline is their middle names because Caroline is an important name in their family. Annie Clyde is a sister-in-law. So presumably maybe she's Sally's sister. She's not married, she's young, she's 14. This could give you Sally's maiden name, except for that's not the one that's in Family Search. So that's a little bit of a mystery. That as you're checking your tree, that would bear checking out. And the way that you do that is that we know that James and Sally were married in 1875. So we try to go find Sally in 1870 before she was married with the name that's in the Family Search database and see if she has a little sister, Annie, who should be 10 years old, 10 years ago, living in the same family. And that would be a good way to check to make sure that Sally's last name isn't Clyde instead of the one that's in the database in Family Search. And now we see that Rudolph is 80 and he's the father of James. The relationships are always in relation to the head of the household, and that's James. So he's James's father. We don't see Caroline here, but it says he's married. You notice this column, and when you put your cursor over that, the married lights up for a little bit. Notice that the next column is widow or divorced. So if Caroline had died, you'd think that he would be a widow, and that would be marked there. Maybe it's a mistake, but let's find out. So we're going to try to find Caroline in the 1880. I'm going to take out, so I'm not real sure what her age was. See if we can find her. Yep. Check here, because we're using up a lot of our time here. Let me use my cheat sheet. Okay. Okay. Caroline, the wife of Charles, doesn't look good, does it? And 1832. No, that doesn't look right. Okay. Wonder where she could be. Like that. Let's go back to the that's the one we had before. There are 800 of them. Only one born in Switzerland. Okay. Well, Notice how they populate first, even though I didn't click exact, they've got Switzerland. And then the next thing they do is people where there's no birth listed.
She could be in a hospital or a care center, just not on.
She could be, she could be. You still need to try to find her. And they don't have any in Switzerland here. I'll just do, I'm gonna cheat on this one. So this is the daughter's, the daughter who got married, her last name. Okay. Okay, so I searched for the daughter because I actually knew. Okay, and now you see why we couldn't find her. This is Caroline. She's the mother-in-law here. She's living with her married daughter. There's no, it says she's born in Pennsylvania. No, it says she's born in Switzerland. And we didn't put in any age, and she is married, but notice she's going by Marion C. So my search for Caroline messed it up. So if I just searched for PER asterisk with Switzerland, this probably would have come up. But so this is, you know, you're a detective. You're trying to find where people are. Now you found, by finding her, you found Caroline. This is how I found Caroline's married name. And then all of Caroline's children. So mom was living with daughter, at least visiting. Maybe she might have been visiting that night. And we've got everybody, you know, we've accounted for Rudolph and a lot of his family in every available census with our little exercise. It hasn't been easy, has it? We've had to struggle a little bit. I'm going to show you one now just to end with, and I hope this isn't as interesting as watching grass grow. We're going to go to a different person in our an ancestor, Phil's ancestor here. Phil, are you there? Phil's watching. I'm not real sure how to pronounce Antony Piechnik. That's what we're going to go with until Phil corrects me. Okay, so again, we've got an immigrant person, Antony Piechnik. He was born in Poland in 1893. He died in the United States in Michigan, I think in 1968. He didn't arrive, for the sake of time, I'm going to tell you, he didn't arrive until 1913. And so 1920 is the first census where we can find him. 1920 and 1930 would be, and 1940. Phil already has the 1940. The 1930 is actually right here in the hints, and so that wouldn't have been any fun to look for. A couple of things I'll just tell you that finding Antony in the 1920 census has been really, really hard. I spent hours on it and I haven't been able to find him yet. One thing that I use, and I keep looking, and I'm still not assuming that he's not there. One thing, Phil put a couple of really helpful things up. This is Antony and Anna's marriage certificate. Can you read that? We, the undersigned, hereby certify that on the 12th day of November, 1,919. So they got married the 12th of November, 1919 in Pittsburgh. And you'd think in the 1920s that, oh, they're in Pittsburgh in the 1920 census. I could not find anything. I tried PI asterisk, I tried asterisk NIK. I tried because P and B sound a lot alike. I tried BIK. I've tried a lot of things. Here's another clue that Phil put on his page, and that is son Ladislaw Picnic, who later went by Walter, but he's the son of Antony Picnic and Anna. And you can see that he was born August 21st, 1920. And he was born in Pittsburgh also. So we've got a record in 1919 that they were in Pittsburgh, and in August 1920, they were in Pittsburgh. So surely they're in Pittsburgh. Okay, let me just show you a little bit about the lengths I went to find this man in 1920. And I hope you find this like a detective story like I do. Fun. Okay, we're going to go to, again, search, our catalog. We're going to go to 1920. And I'm going to put A and T because it might be TONITHONY. We don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
We're going to put in asterisk NIK. I know this doesn't work, but we're going to put Poland. 1893 plus or minus 10. And he lived in, and we're going to say he was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm going to go exact because he's married in 1919. Now let's look at this. Okay, we've got nobody with a wife, Anna. So none of these are correct. But let's go to this for now, because I'm going to show you something. It's important to know what date the census was taken, because I want to know if I'm looking for Ladislaw or Walter, right? Because Walter's another search I could make. Unfortunately, the 1920 census was taken in January. So there's no child. So we would expect to find Antony and Anna as a young married couple with no children. And that separates them from a lot of possibilities, because by that age, married people, they married a little bit later than most people do.
Yeah.
And most people with that name had children. And if there are children listed there, that's not the right family. So I'm going to go to, let me show you again this great clue. So I'm looking in Philadelphia, or not in Philadelphia. I'm looking in Pittsburgh, and let's look and see. There's not only that Ladislaw was born in Pittsburgh, but he was born at 1104 Sarah Street in Ward 17. Okay. They were there by August, and that's not a hospital. He was born in that house. So I'm going to try to find Ward 17. So I'm going to go to just Antony But I'm going to take out, well, I'm going to leave in Poland. And there are a lot of different things I can put in here. That's actually what I'm going to do. What was the address? And that was, okay. It was 1104. Okay. So I'm going to put in the house number. Okay, it won't let me put in Sarah Street, but 1104. You can see all of these things that you can search with if you know any of this information. It can help filter things or actually find. Okay. So, and that's not in Ward 17. So I'm going to remove the ant and I'm just going to look for people in Ward 17. Or, sorry, people with the address that starts 1104. Okay, there's 61 of them. Here's the first one in Ward 17. Now this could be 1104, whatever, not necessarily Sarah Street, but look at that. This is 1104 Sarah Street. And that's not the family. And there's nobody that I can see that could possibly be the family living there. So they must have moved there. You know, now these are people who were born in Poland, some of them. This is definitely a Polish area in Pittsburgh. I've really gone through all of Ward 17, you know, looking for this name. Here's a fun thing that you might not know about. You can go to Maps, Google Maps, maps.google.com. You can put in 1104. Oops. Okay. I think that's the one. Okay, now this is where Ladislaw or Walter was born in August of 1920. The fun thing is, that's what the house looked like.
Yep.
Have you been
I
there?
was there once upon a time.
You
I
were?
visited
You were
there, yeah. I did my parents, my grandparents for a while boarded just about the time to get married. Matter of fact, that's how they met, is through the family that had a flat for rent. And so I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm pretty sure. It was not too far from the incline. Yeah.
Okay. So that house was standing in 1920. That is the house.
Yeah.
You can sometimes get rebuilds and it doesn't look like it did when your ancestors were there. But this is the one. Okay, very cool. Now, something that I did that I won't take the time to run you through before I found 1104 Sarah Street was I followed the enumerator. Let me go back to that census. Something that you can do, you know that it's at the corner, it's close to 11th Street, right? But let's see. This is in the first page, so you can actually go to, let's see what the next street would be. Freeburg Street. Let's see if we can find Freeburg Street. Anyway, you can follow them. There's Freiburg. And And you can find, he went Freiburg and up 11th and then went up Sarah Street. So if you're trying to get to an address, if you know an address, then you can, you know, you can follow the enumerator until you find that house, if you happen to know their address. And you could find addresses in a lot of different places, but city directories, birth certificates, death certificates, obituaries, stuff like that. So very cool. I haven't done the easy stuff. This is hard. And Phil, actually, to sum this up, I'm still not ready to give up. But what I would do is follow the kids around. I don't know if you've already done that, and try to see if I can come up with. The other thing you can do is follow the children, and maybe the parents are with the children. You can also look back at that immigration record, because people didn't go person by person. They went in groups usually. And sometimes you can find them living next to each other. I am almost ready to say that the enumerators missed Anthony. Where are you on this, Phil? Do you think maybe they were missed in 1920? You're muted.
Yeah, it's been a couple years since I put this original package together. I'd
Okay.
have to go back and, like you did, do some more research. Yeah, more
Okay,
detail.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
not
good.
quite ready to say, never
Yeah.
mind 1920, but because I've done tens of thousands, if not 100,000 searches for people in census records, and I can only think of a handful of people that I couldn't eventually find.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's really rare that people are missed. I think the enumerators were paid by the person. So it was in their interest to find as many people. And that was an incentive that was created to make sure that nobody was missed, and to make sure that, you know, that Pittsburgh got as many representatives in Congress as they possibly could. So.
And I don't think he was part of the witness protection plan at that time.
Well, you never know. We might find him certainly might find him under a weird name. And that's the thing that really drives you crazy, is that possibility that the transcription was wrong, or
Yeah.
the way that they heard it was wrong, and they wrote down something real squirrely.
Even coming through Ellis Island, because my dad visited Ellis Island, he found the record of my grandfather coming through there. I think it was July 2nd, 1913. So he found the record at Ellis Island. So anyhow, and that, you know, you mentioned about spelling. Yeah, that could have changed. Yeah, dramatically.
Yeah, for sure. Now tell me the right pronunciation.
My grandpa said picnic. Picnic.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was and we tried to find what it means. It's like, you know, back in the old days they had hearths for, you know, cooking and stuff, and there was kind of a warming shelf, and that warming shelf is called a picnic.
Really? Okay. Maybe your ancestor invented the warming shelf, right? Who knows? Yeah.
Who knows? Okay.
Very good. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope this hasn't discouraged you. I purposely chose really hard ones. Most of them are not this hard, but to show you different techniques for searching. So we're going to go back to, and I hope it will let me do this. I'm going to click Google Chrome. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Are we back on the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we're back from Ancestry. And we've got a few more minutes. Okay. Whoops. Let's go back. what is genealogical research? It is, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to find what records are available for the time and time period and geographic location. Yeah, I did it again. I'm trying to, let me move the screen. Trying to move your pretty faces over to the right-hand side so that I can see what I'm talking about. There we go. Okay, genealogical research is finding what records are, the first thing you'll do is find what records are available for a time period and geographic location. You're going to find out how to access, how to access. You're going to find how to find those and then how to access those records. And you're going to read and interpret the records, learn how to read and interpret the records in order to prove a family connection. Those are the basic steps that we're going to be going through to extend your line. Okay, so it's research time. It's really exciting, launching off. Okay, now we're finding something new. We're so excited. It's, we're launching off into new territory here. But it also brings with it some, what do I do now? Where do I begin? I've got this tree. What do I do? Where do I start? You need to search. You need to choose a line, right? And how to decide which line to do. How to decide, let interest guide, except you want to start with the easiest first, the easiest in your tree. Now, what can you identify in your tree that would make that line easier than another line? Factors, the surname and the spelling. Now we've seen the challenges of parité and picnic, but on the other side, there, I believe, more challenges with the surname of Smith or Johnson or Miller, because you're going to find so many. You're going to do, if you do a first name search, you're going to have too many answers, right? Or a last name search. So a very, very common surname is much more difficult to do research for than is a unique surname, a less common surname. The other factor, and you can't always tell this from your tree, but the geographic stability of a family. As you search, you're going to find some of your ancestors moved around a lot, and that makes it really difficult. Why is that difficult? Because when you're looking in records, let's say in New Jersey, and then they move to Pennsylvania, when you make that jump, you need to make sure that you're jumping to the same person. And so, geographic stability, boy, if your ancestor lived and, was born and lived and died in the same town, hallelujah, that makes the research easier. And if their name wasn't Smith, so if you can tell by looking at your tree, which you usually can't before you start researching, but geographic stability really helps. Record accessibility. Okay, are there records online? Are there, am I going to have to go to a courthouse, or is there stuff on Ancestry? If we were to, we're kind of running short on time now, but well, let's do it anyway. Let's go back to Google Chrome. And I assume that you know how to do this on Family Search. We're going to go to Ancestry. And we're going to do search the catalog there. And let's just do a quick search of, we're going to do Texas marriages. There are no Texas marriages. There are 18 Virginia marriages. There are 8 Pennsylvania marriages. You see what I mean? If I do just the state, 856 for Pennsylvania. And those are records that have Pennsylvania in the title. You can see that I'm searching the title. There are 211 for Texas, significantly less than Pennsylvania. 79 for Virginia. So that's one way, a quick way to gauge. Have we got, what records are there? The more records there are to look at, particularly online, the better off you're going to be, right? So that helps. That's the record accessibility. That doesn't mean you can't go to courthouses and there are a lot of other resources besides the record databases and Family Search and Ancestry, but you can get a little bit of a feel for that through doing what we just did. Okay, the language barrier. I would start with Germany because I don't speak German. I wouldn't start with, Poland because I don't speak Polish. Start because you're just starting. If you're just starting, you want to do easy and learning. You'll get to the point where you can do German even without learning German because you can learn certain words. You can learn that Taufer means baptized, and you can, you can read a baptismal record even without knowing German, but don't start out that way. Jumping the pond, we all want to find that immigrant ancestor and that where they came from. We want to find them in the old country, don't we? That is one of the most difficult things to do in genealogy. Don't start there. So and just we go from the known to the unknown. So in your tree, you start with yourself because you know that. You start with your parents because hopefully you know that. You start with, you go from there, and then each step along the way is going to be going from known to unknown. Okay. I've created a fan chart of Andrew Ogilvy Wilson, who is in my tree. We're going to pretend that I'm Andrew, that's where I'm starting, that this is what my tree looks like. Okay, for starting. And you can see that the left-hand side of this tree, by the way, your fan chart is a great way to assess what work needs to be done, isn't it? At a glance, you could see the gaps. Now, I might want to start with Susanna Margaret Thomas. I don't know if you can see her with the red lines in that section just to the right of middle. But that's further back. That's in the 1780s. She died in 1819. On the left-hand side, I've got Andrew Ogilvy Wilson's father, 1800 to 1856. I should find him in the 1850 census, by the way. But the only thing I have for his father is that it was Charles Wilson and that he was dead. I find him in the 1850 census. He's 50 years old. He's not going to be living with his parents probably. And he wasn't. Actually, Charles had died before then. So what would it looks to me like I do the Wilson line because Wilson is more common a name than Summer. But because the records are in the later you get in the time period, the more records there are, and the earlier you get, the fewer there are, generally speaking, or at least harder to understand. So the Wilson line would be a really good one to work on. Okay, records. One of the things that really surprised me when I started doing research is that nearly every person in modern history has left a paper trail. It's kind of incredible. And so that's good news. But the closer you get to our day, the more records there are. And the more records were generated. Generally speaking, if money was involved, there's a record for it. You know, when some of your best records for early research is going to be land records. And why did they keep land records when they didn't keep birth, marriage, and death records that great? Because money was involved, right? And they wanted to keep track of who owned this property. So now the caveat with that is that a couple of things. If you're adopted, even though it's close, that's going to be a really hard line, right? If it's a closed adoption. So that's one caveat. The other is that privacy laws kick in at a certain point, and it's really messed up genealogy research. And I understand the need for privacy. I'm kind of sad that there are people out there that are stealing our information because that has closed some doors to us research-wise. It is more difficult to find a living person than it is someone who lived in the 1800s. And that's sad, but that's where we are. So you want to start with your closest missing ancestor generally. Again, there are exceptions. If you're adopted, if for some reason, there can be problems, but this is a general rule. Start closest to you. Okay. Now, setting research objectives, I've kind of got an idea of what line I want to follow. So once you've chosen a line to research, you need to choose a specific research objective. For instance, extending my Wilson line, nope, that's not, that I can say that, but that's not the end of your objective. Instead, I can set a goal for, I want to find the marriage record for Charles Wilson. Okay. Charles Wilson, if you'll remember, was James's, well, we'll look at that, I think, in the next slide. But anyway, finding the marriage record for Charles would not only tell us who his mother was probably, who James's mother was probably, but her maiden name. So that's a great one to start with. I could also start with birth records or death records, again, depending on availability, what is available for that time period in that geographic area. And as you research, you'll get to know this. You're going to become familiar with what each record's going to tell you. In other words, I just told you that I know that a marriage record, if I find a marriage record for Charles Wilson, I'm going to find the maiden name of the mother. I know that because I've looked at marriage records. The marriage record might tell you the names of both of their parents. That's really lucky if they were taking that. Hallelujah, but that's not the norm. But you can always hope until you find it. And that can help you decide on your specific research objective. In other words, if I really do want to find that mom, maybe the best way to do it is to look for the marriage record first. So your objective, your non-specific objective needs to become more specific, and it will become more specific by you choosing a record that you think will give you the answer to the question that you want. Okay, so back to this. You can see that James, I could look for James's birth record. I could look for his marriage record that might have his parents' names, probably not, but might. I could look for probate records. Did Charles leave anything to James, if he had property or anything? There are a lot of things you can look at. And you're going to start with the basic vital records, the birth, marriage, and death, if you can find them. If not, you may need to go to more obscure things. So, okay, good. That leaves us, we're going to do primary and secondary sources discussion next week. So I wonder if we've got time for questions now. So I wonder if there are any questions about what we've discussed today. Carrie, did anybody submit a question at all or?
Most everything in the chat, we were kind of just chatting and answered it there.
Okay, great.
Sue,
Yeah.
it's Gail. The question that I keep wondering about are the baptismal records. So
Mhm.
those would be the records that are the church records. Those would be the places that you would go in order to locate marriage information, correct? Or because in how far back does do these official like state marriage licenses go? Like prior to
Yes.
that, prior to the states taking on that responsibility,
Mhm.
wasn't that information recorded in the churches?
Sometimes it was. If they married in a church, it could be in church records.
Uh-huh.
Protestant denominations are not that great at keeping records. It's been rare to me that I've been able to find Protestant records in church records, although except in databases like Ancestry will gather up all sorts of church records for New Jersey and Pennsylvania, for example.
Mhm.
And that would be worth looking in. That's very hit or miss. So there are databases with church records that can be really helpful. And that's where you do have to look before. Usually states started recording birth, marriage, and death as in issuing certificates for those events in the early 1900s. And every
Okay.
state was different. Some are 1914, some are, so that's something, if you go to Family Search Wiki for that state,
Okay.
they will tell you when they started, issuing certificates.
Mhm.
There are databases that are, that were issued before then. Illinois, for instance, has a great pre-1910 database of their vital records. And I found actually a lot of stuff on there. So again, it's geographic area to geographic area. And that's why the geography is so important. And you're going to look at all the different levels of geography. In other words, you're going to look in the United States if they were in the United States, and United States records would be census records, and there might be some military records or just something that was generated on a country basis, draft registration records. You can go to the state and look up the state like we did in Ancestry, and you can do that in Family Search too. You can go to the county level, and often counties kept records of marriages and sometimes births and deaths. You can go to the town. In fact, in New England, they kept town records really early. And so you're surprised to see a birth record in 1715 in Hartford, Connecticut. Oh, these were great. So geographic area really tells you, it's got to be based on geography. At all of those levels, you're going to be looking for the records and seeing, okay, who generated those records?
So it's like from a macrocosm, you go to a microcosm
Exactly.
in searching.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. And marriages are tough to find. If you can find it, great. And they're well, we'll talk more about that later. Different ways to get to marriage records. And
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions out there?
Connie had mentioned in the chat about finding people in city directories. And then she also asked about finding divorce records.
Okay. And a lot of times the divorce records are with the marriage records. There's several marriage and divorce databases, again, depending on geography. So those divorce records are available. Again, the privacy rule kicks in. So you're going to find divorces in the 1800s better than in our time period. And that's true for death records and marriage records as well. Anyway, so what was the first part of the divorce before the divorce thing? I forgot.
Sorry, she had mentioned how you can use city directories to help you
Okay.
find people.
Yeah, city directories are fantastic. The major cities all had city directories. If you're in Chicago, if you're in Pittsburgh has city directories, although it didn't have one for 1920, Phil, so that didn't help me at all. But that would be worth looking for. I just looked on Ancestry. If there's a city directory for Pittsburgh that you can find for 1920, find that address, see if you can find Anthony there. That would be another way to try to find it, because who knows when they took that address, right? If for the directory, it might have been, where they were actually living at the time of the census in January. City directories. Okay, here's a fun city directory story. I have ancestors that lived in Chicago, and they moved to Chicago in about 1866 or something. And so there are directories for every year. So I found them in 1866, 67, 68, 69. 1870, there's an occurrence in Chicago, the Great Chicago Fire. And I actually can trace my ancestors. They were living in the burned out district, and they survived. They weren't killed in that awful 3-day fire that was propelled by hurricane force winds and jumped several rivers. And Chicago was there was a lot of wood at the time, so a lot of boardwalks, so it spread and it just destroyed everything. So I can find them in 1870, and then after the fire in 1871, and yeah, they've moved, the address changed. And I can go to a map and see where they are. Again, this can help you with your census searches. But as far as bringing people to life, it doesn't have family information. Sometimes it'll give the person they're married to. Oftentimes it will say what they did. It's a business directory. Sometimes it'll say their business address and their home address. So they're really valuable. And so if your ancestor lived in Philadelphia or New York City or some of these major cities, definitely check out the city directories. A lot of good information there, and they're pretty easy to access.
There's also a question about Canadian census records. Do you know if those exist?
They do. And they're on the 01 schedule like England is. So I want to say they started in 1841 like England did. I've definitely found 51, 61, 71, 81. They didn't have, our 1890 census was destroyed. They didn't have that occurrence. So you've got 1891, 1901, and I think 1911 may have been published, and that may be the last one that we've got. So yeah, there's census records for Canada, and those are available on Ancestry, probably Family Search too. England also. So those are great resources.
Hey, Sue, I have a question just about death certificates. A lot of the African-American research that I'm trying to do, it's so frustrating for me to not be able to find death certificates. And I wondered if you could it's my understanding that around 1900 is when they started doing that. But was it still not really something that was necessary? Were people falling through the cracks, or what can you tell me about where to find death certificates if they're not coming up in my searches?
Okay. I would go to Family Search Wiki for whatever area, for whatever state you're talking about. Are you talking about Texas?
Yes, I am.
Okay. They'll tell you when Texas started keeping records, and usually they're pretty good. Usually there's compliance from the start, but some states are later than others.
Okay.
And I'm not familiar with Texas to tell you off the top of my head when that was, but you can find that out. And every state is different, so maybe they didn't have great compliance at first.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay,
But hopefully the Family Search Wiki will tell you. And as we get into sources, there are other sources, there are other places that you can look for that kind of information that I'll tell you about.
okay, good, thanks.
Mhm. Anything else?
There were a few comments in the chat. Sue Yerby mentioned how the Clayton Library has a great collection of city directories for Texas. And
Great.
Connie mentioned Sanborn maps, which are helpful for finding people by addresses. And she thinks the Library of Congress has a pretty complete set of that.
Excellent. Family History Library does too. And we're going to have a whole section on Sanborn maps as we talk about different sources that are helpful. So yeah, good observation. They're really great. Any other comments or questions or? I neglected to mention that there was a course taught in fall of how to find census records. I showed you a lot today, but just background information on how to on the census and what are available and what they all tell you. If you're interested in that, when you're embarking on this, it might be helpful. And I'll send everybody in the class a link to that video probably today, so you can look at that.